Welcome back to the Go Shout Love podcast. I am Seth Carnell, and in this episode we are talking to Tonya, the mother to beautiful, joyful, 1-year-old Lana. This little girl was diagnosed at 3 months old with a rare condition, and I apologize if I don't pronounce this correctly, Neurofibromatosis type 1, which in basic terms means it is a genetic disorder that causes tumors to form on nerve tissues anywhere in the nervous system, like the brain or the spinal cord. Today you are going to hear how difficult it can be searching for a diagnosis while a child is experiencing severe symptoms, and how tough and uncertain hearing a diagnosis can be, such as hearing the word tumor and then tumors, as in multiple. I think the best way I can put this is that there is a lot of reality that is covered in this conversation, and I encourage you deeply to really listen to it. Interviewing Tonya is our fearless leader, Josh Veach, one of the co-directors of Go Shout Love, along with Jessica Santo, our family relations director and talented photographer. You will also be lucky enough to hear sweet Lana in the background from time to time. Please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us to continue to shout love for families like this.
What are you doing,
She's
Lana?
like a master zipper maker.
And then they would appear, and I'm like, how? They're appearing. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And
You had to
started,
be thinking at some point that you were losing your mind a little bit.
Yes.
Like you're a first-time mom, and she has birthmarks appearing. She can't keep any food down, but you are trying to convey that to a doctor.
Yes, and another severity I was trying to get to the doctor was because she was throwing up so much, I had to keep her upright in her bed.
Yeah.
And at one point, she vomited in her sleep, and she started choking and turned blue, and I had to call 911 and have them come out and help me. And it was the most scary. And that's when I just became, okay, you have to help me figure out what's wrong with my kid. And so he threw his hands up in the air and said, I don't know. He's like, do you care if I go get another doctor? And I said, yes, please. Please go get somebody else. Help us out. And
how old is she at this point?
this is... she's been puking since she was born, and then
But as far as the shift in
the shift, and finally him getting in the doctor was the 3-month mark.
Okay.
So it's been 3 months of her throwing up and not sleeping, and just her screaming.
So
she screamed for 18 hours plus a day, just constant screaming. Unless she took a small nap, she was screaming.
So then when the new doctor came in,
So
did you find out?
she came in and she said, Tonya, I'm going to go get a book, and I'm going to talk something over with the doctor, then we're going to come back in. But I have a thought.
So she could tell by the spots.
Yes,
she had a
knew.
feeling this is what this was, and she was going to go confirm it.
Yeah, so she brought in this book, and she said, I'm going to do a bunch of exams. She's like, don't ask questions. Let me just do this exam. It's going to be scary because I'm going to look her over. And just let me do my thing, and then we'll talk afterwards. I said, okay.
So at this point, you're really putting your trust in this woman.
Right.
And you're going to let her do what she needs to do for a diagnosis.
Right. So she's done, and she opens up the book, and she said, I think she has this disorder. Of course, I don't know. But because I think she has this disorder, I think there's a tumor in her stomach, and I think that's why she's throwing up. So my stomach drops. My heart drops into my stomach, and I get this feeling, this overwhelming feeling, but there's nothing I can do except go, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
And she said, you've already been admitted. We've already called the hospital. Go home and pack. I can't tell you how long you're going to be there, but prepare yourself. So they roll in, and they said she can't eat for so many hours now because we got to prepare to put her under for all these tests. So we do x-rays, we do ultrasounds. The doctor doesn't like the ultrasound, so we do another ultrasound. We do CT scans, we do MRIs, we do everything under the book, just trying to figure out whatever. I didn't know at the time what all the disorder consisted of. I just thought we were looking for a tumor in the stomach, right? So
the doctor that came in, the second doctor that recognized the spots and said, I think I know what this is, she recognized the disorder, but is the tumor that she suspected that was in her stomach, is that part of the disorder?
So part of the disorder is there's tumors that can grow on any part of the nerve in the body, anywhere on the nerves in the body.
Okay. And so because it was presenting in her GI system, the doctor suspected that, okay, it's this disorder and the tumors, it's caused tumors in her stomach area.
Right. It's a possibility.
Right. That's what she was thinking was causing the vomiting.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And then, so we did all the tests. They even put a camera down her throat, just trying to see anything. No tumor. So
at that point, are you relieved, or are you still kind of...
I was confused,
right?
Because I'm like, okay, so there's no tumor, but why is she throwing up still? Why is there so much? Why is this so severe? Tell me what's wrong with my child. So they finally sent in a GI specialist, and they said, we think it's just simply as acid reflux. We're going to give her some medicine.
Which I feel like if that was my child and I had someone say I think it's just acid reflux, and your mom gut is telling you that it's not, and having a doctor tell you that it is, it would be a little frustrating.
It was.
Because you knew it wasn't just acid reflux.
Yeah.
Were they able to independently confirm that she did have the disorder?
So they did, all at the same time. So they had her first chemotherapy doctor came in, and he said, I've seen patients with this. I'm going to look her over. I can't officially confirm this, but I know, I've seen it enough. I know she has it.
Yeah.
So
and what is it called?
Neurofibromatosis type 1.
Okay.
There's multiple types, and it's based off of how old you are, what type you have.
Okay.
And so she has type 1. And he said, I'm going to set you up with the doctor and you're going to get an official diagnosis. We're also going to do a genetic test. So we're there, of course, because she's throwing up so much, she's underweight. This is the first time we're there for, I think it was like 3 weeks that we were there. Just trying to get her to keep food down, get her to stop vomiting. And being a single mom, being off work for 3 weeks, that was really hard. Mm-hmm. Not seeing outside for 3 weeks was really hard. So we finally leave. We get the official diagnosis. Your child has this. They give us some very vague paperwork. This is what what can happen with this diagnosis. And so, of course, I'm doing my own research, trying to figure out what to expect with this, because I've never heard of it. Right. And I'm reading some scary things. And then we get a call, and we find out she has her first tumor. Completely unrelated. But because of the acid reflux, because we did the MRI to look for other things, we found the first tumor behind her eye. Just by coincidence.
Wow.
And so they say, we want to keep an eye on it. Here in 3 months, we'll do another scan. We'll see if it grows. We do another scan in 3 months. She has a second tumor. And
so she's at this point around 9 months old? Is that right?
6 months.
6 months, okay.
6 months. Because we did it 3 months after the first one.
Okay.
So now she's 6 months old. We find out she has 2 tumors. And the second one's bigger. And this one's been the troublemaker from when we found out. So now every 3 months since then, we've done MRI scans. And because So then at 9 months, we did another one. It grew 3 millimeters. And because it grew, we decided to start our first chemotherapy round.
How big was it when you found it?
That's a good question.
So that has to be growing it had to have been growing pretty quick if it was bigger than her first one.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it wasn't that they didn't spot it in the first one. It was new.
Grew. It was new, yeah. I don't remember the initial, and I should. But so every 3 months after that, it grew 3 to 4 millimeters. We did the first chemotherapy. It was 2 different types. We did it for a little while. We would go in 1 week. She would get 1 round, and then 2 weeks later, we would have to get admitted for this one because the side effects could be pretty severe. So every other week, we were admitted to the hospital for a few days. And then after that, we just, it's not working. It's still growing. We switched to another chemotherapy, and we find a 3rd tumor.
Oh, wow.
So the first one, the 3rd one has been pretty stable.
Where's the 3rd one? Where's the 3rd one?
It's same general area. If anybody knows anything about the eye area, her first one is in the optic pathway, right behind the right eye. And then there's what's called the chiasm. It's a tube, and it connects the eyes, basically. And the second one, the biggest one, it's almost right in the middle of it, but mostly towards the right side. So, but once it crosses over that path to the left, it could start affecting the left eye. But, so we were on that second round of different type of chemo, and this one we're on it every Monday. We were on that one for a while. It's not working. We go to Memphis. I just had this gut feeling. We've been on this. It's still growing every 3 to 4 millimeters every 3 months. And we need something different. The doctor's like, let's just wait for the full year. And I'm like, no.
I can't afford to wait for a year.
I don't want to wait. Her head's tiny. 3 to 4 millimeters is a lot.
That's what I keep thinking about. Hearing you talk about it and looking at her and just, she's so tiny, and you think about these 3 tumors.
Yeah.
It's hard for your mind to comprehend that.
So we go to Memphis. We get another MRI scan. Springfield doesn't have a pediatric radiologist, and Memphis does. And I wanted to get this 3rd opinion because she's been seeing the disorder doctor in St. Louis, and he's given me his opinion. So we go to Memphis, and we find out now it's grown 6 millimeters. Now this tumor's huge. Now it's pushing on the pituitary gland, which produces hormones, and now
it can now wreak havoc other parts of the body.
It's now it's very, very, a hair away from pushing up against the hypothalamus. It's very close, and it's in a very scary area now. She's now losing her peripheral sight in her right eye. So the doctor recommended now that we switch, and we switched to a trial drug. And now this trial drug is only available in St. Louis, which is 4 hours away from home. So,
is it only available in St. Louis in the whole can you go other places and get it?
I could. This is the closest.
The closest, okay.
Because it's part of a clinical trial, right?
Yeah, and they can only have X amount of kids on the trial, so you have to apply for it. And the doctors told us this is our last chance. This is our last hope. You don't have another chemo option. Those other 2 should have worked.
Mm-hmm. And so you started the trial in, was it mid-May? Is that right? Okay.
Yep, we started. And the side effects were almost immediately. She started having some pretty severe diarrhea, and within the next week, we were already admitted to Memphis to get her some help because she was in a lot of pain. We were there for 4 days, and then we come home, and we have to drive back up to St. Louis that following Monday for our next treatment. So we have been there now for 3 weeks, basically. Lots of driving that I'm not used to. I'm not working a whole lot because of this.
And in school.
And I'm in school, and
Yeah.
that's been a struggle. I try to balance school and her medical needs has been really tough. I didn't think it was going to be this tough, but school has been awesome and working with me. Now we go back this Monday, which will be 4 weeks in a row that we've drove up to St. Louis. And
Because you're currently in the trial, right?
we're currently in the trial. We have now signed papers for a year.
Do you have any idea if it's working?
So we're going to do the same plan, scans every 3 months. Our next scan is at the end of August, and we'll find out if this chemo is working.
And do they expect, based on what they know about the trial so far, do they expect results? If it is working, are the results pretty quick as far as the stopping of the growth or reduction of the tumor, or what have they communicated as potential expectations if it is working?
They don't.
Yeah.
So there's different phases of a trial, and we're in phase 2. Phase 1 is what are the symptoms. Now they can see whether or not there's going to be a reduction in tumors, but they can't document it, right? So the doctor said, we have seen reduction, but we haven't seen them disappear, but I can't promise you anything because it's not something we have documented yet. This is what phase 2 is about. You are now in the phase 2 to tell us if this chemo is actually working.
One of the reasons we do this, although we do love introducing the world to awesome families, but we also love helping them in a real, everyday sort of way. So we sell creative apparel, and half of all of those proceeds go directly to the families. So I encourage you, head over to our website, goshout.love, and please purchase a t-shirt, a mug, a hat, or more to help cover the compiling travel costs for frequent 8-hour road trips to and from St. Louis for Lana's treatments. If you'd like to keep going further, you can also start a monthly subscription and shout love for great families each month. Use the discount code PODCAST, PODCAST, at checkout to save $5 on your first order when you start a subscription. Again, that's $5 off your first month with the discount code PODCAST at checkout.
She used to be playful. She used to be super independent. She loved being outside. She loved being in her room and playing with her toys, and she's always been independent. She knew how to play by herself, and for the past 3 weeks since we've started this chemo, she has been on my lap, very cuddly, doesn't want to move, not very interactive with other people like she used to be. She's just not the same Lana that I'm used to, and it's been really hard. It's been rough.
You're watching what's supposed to be helping, and hopefully is helping. The immediate result of that is it's robbing her some of her life that you're used to seeing, and the joy that she has because of just that, of dealing with that treatment. I think that's something we hear from a lot of parents, is this: they know that the stuff is so harsh, but they do it because it's the only option that they have to give their child the best chance, and yet they have to watch it as this ugly treatment.
They call it poison.
Right, yeah.
I hate that word, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is, but it's also something that could save a child's life.
Exactly, and that was the hardest decision to make. Was here's this 2-page list of possible side effects that can happen with your child. We don't know if it's going to work, but this is your last option. So it's up to you.
As a mom, and she's still so young, she's not even 2 yet, to be going through all of this, where do you find your strength to do all the things that you're doing to continue to provide for her and care for her and get through all these appointments and still go through school and all of that? Where do you find the strength to do that?
So, at the beginning, I found it, you have to find time for yourself. You still have to find time for you. So I learned early on, no matter how tired I am, no matter how exhausted, how drained, how much I want to cry, when she goes to bed, I take an hour to 2 hours of me time, and I do what I want. I craft, I read, I paint, I take a long hot bath. I do what I have to do for me. You have to self-care in order to make it through. And I might be dozing off while I'm doing those things, just so tired. But I found it, I have to. Otherwise, if I go straight to bed and don't have that time and I wake right back up with her and we have to start the day with chemo again and her crying and her fighting me because she doesn't want to take it and I don't want to give it to her because I know the second I do she's just going to be in more pain. You just have to take that time for yourself. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's very empowering that you can find strength in yourself to do that. And I think that's gonna be an awesome mom.
So for the shirt design that is inspired by Lana, the statement focuses on finding your strength and conquering from within. And the word conquer can mean, I think, it's got such a warrior mind. It comes off as, this really warrior perspective and kind of a war imagery, if you will. But I think conquering for each person in different seasons of life looks and feels different. And so as you're almost 2 years into your parenting journey, and really the same amount you've been dealing with this, even though undiagnosed in the very beginning, for the same amount of time. What does conquering, when you dream about conquering and working through this with her, what does that look like for you and for her?
Conquering just means getting through this and getting her back, or getting her to a normal life. She hasn't had a normal life yet. She doesn't know what not seeing a doctor means, what not getting poked by a needle means. She doesn't know what normal is. I don't know what normal is having a child, because we've been constantly to the doctor trying to figure out what's wrong. And so conquering just means is conquering this tumor and hopefully get it to stop growing before it really just starts to take a toll on her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think in this journey with her has been the most difficult hurdle to have overcome through all of this that you've been through?
I don't think there's one answer to that, because it's been a different hurdle in different parts of her life that have been equal as hard as something else that we've been through.
And you tackle each one of them as they come.
Yeah, and you have to.
What about if you could give anyone, if there's a new single mom sitting in a doctor's office about to get this diagnosis, what one piece of advice would you give that mom?
I would tell that mom that you can and will be strong enough to handle anything. Find support. It may be in the people you least expect. Don't be surprised if the people at first who say they will be there for you don't end up being there in the long run. The unexpected will come, so prepare yourself and your family for that. And most importantly, don't forget to cry. It's okay. I still struggle with that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to cry, and sometimes it's while I'm driving, and I have to be like, no, now's not the time. You'll have to cry on your own time. And so you push it off, but you have to make that time. You have to make time to cry.
What's an example of unexpected help or support that you've received, somebody or some situation that's shown up where you didn't expect it to come from?
So there was two that really just blew me away. The first one is we were really struggling at first. Like I said, we were at the doctor's or hospital visits about 250 times before she was 3 months old.
Oh my gosh, wow, that's a perspective right there. 250 times you were at
the doctor or admitted, some type of an appointment or in the hospital 250 times before she was 3 months old. We would have multiple, like 3 to 5 appointments in one day, whether it be therapy or this or that or whatever. And I couldn't work because I have to make sure she's getting the care that she needs. And so the most unexpected was that her doctors and her nurses realized this. And they came together and pulled the money that they could and gave us a gift card of... It wasn't a big amount, like a huge amount, but it was enough to be a blessing that I needed at the time. And they gave us several boxes of diapers and wipes to just help us get through that time.
That had to mean a lot because you know that these doctors and nurses, they see children and families every day, all day long. And for them to notice that in you, that is a very special thing.
It made me feel really good and grateful for them to recognize us, our individual family, for that.
You're a cheeser, Lana. You like to have that camera on.
We often hear a lot, and rightfully so, of people, talking negatively, not negatively, but sharing that their experiences in the medical field have been difficult. Similar to like in your situation, you show up for 3 months, all 250 times, and you know that it's more than just acid reflux. But I think the word trying to get to that
they use is dismissive. They feel like they were dismissed.
They're not heard, and there's also, we probably don't do as good a job of pointing out the world changers that are in the medical field, the nurses, and there are doctors too that do the same, but that recognize. I don't think I could do it. It's hard enough doing what we do and knowing that we can't help every child that comes in, every nomination we get.
Yeah, nurses and doctors are doing this every day.
Yeah, and so that to know that they can't do the same for every child, but they're going to do as much as they can for each one.
Was that here in Springfield? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and then the second one that blew me away is
it's probably not a good idea, Lana.
There's a program called the Hope Foundation, Help Give Hope, and if you're approved, they help you twice a year with a certain amount to go towards bills only. But basically, in a really rough time, and it was around Christmas time, they ended up covering a little over a month's worth of all of my bills.
Oh, wow.
And then a little bit more of the second month.
Sincerely, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for listening to this podcast. Please, if you have a second, go rate and review it, especially if you enjoyed it, so that we can share it with more people and maybe it reaches somebody who needs to hear a conversation like this and would benefit from even future conversations that we're going to have. If you haven't done so already and would like to start a subscription, please once again go to GoShout.love and start a subscription with the discount code PODCAST to get $5 off your first month's order. And please tune in to more conversations and really in-depth, meaningful talks with families as great as Tonya and Lana. Thank you, Shouters. Talk to you again soon.